This is an Intel Pentium D custom-built computer. I'm sure you and it need no introduction. We're going to be performing some upgrades today. Now, the main attraction upgrade is not actually here yet. I still have to go out and buy it. But I am going to be installing one thing that is probably the best, maybe not the best, but quite possibly the most dangerous addition I have ever put into a computer. And let me show it to you. Now, the card itself, it is an expansion card. It's not exactly the most dangerous thing in the world. I mean, it's not going to break into the White House or cause any data loss or send my data to the NSA in 2 seconds flat. But it is a card of unknown working state, and what is even better is that it looks like there are bent pins. Let me turn this light on. There are bent pins on that header. It doesn't look like any are touching, so that's good news. I'll have to make sure that none are touching before I power the system on, because otherwise we will have a pretty large poof and a bang, and I don't really like that. This is an ATI All-in-Wonder 128. It's a Rage Theater card, so it is supposedly supported on, and I've got no reason to believe otherwise, so I'm not casting any dispersions on anybody. But it should function in a multi-processor system, unlike the Conexant and the BT and later Conexant chip-based cards, which did not work on multi-processor systems and would cause the system to blow chunks as soon as you try to use it. I admit that is fun to say. But unfortunately, this card needs special breakout cables, but I'm going to be testing something, because I've actually got one breakout cable for this particular card, and it figures that I can't find it at the moment. Unfortunately, it's not the one that I need. However, I've got both that other breakout cable, and I've got this thing. Both of these are grossly inappropriate, and you should not do this at home. I am trying it as merely an experiment. I have got no money invested into this card. The computer's another story, but the hard drives are really the only thing in there that I've paid any money for, so they can be unplugged or whatever while I'm doing this test. Or, well, I'll probably unplug most of them. Or just leave them in, because I am just a total, well, I like to live life dangerously. These all share the same pinout. So I'm going to try them. I'm going to see what happens. I don't expect it to work. I'm probably going to end up having to shell out money for a new cable. But fortunately, those are on eBay all over the place, and they're not expensive. But the problem is I have no idea if this card even works. The last system it was in didn't post when it was installed, so I don't know. We'll find out what it does. If it does work, I will spend the money on the card, but I don't want to buy anything first. I don't want to buy anything if this is going to work, or if that other cable is going to work. I'm not going to buy a cable, because there's no point. But if neither of those works, but the card actually functions, then I'll probably bother myself to do it. In fact, I could probably do something even more devious using the coax input. But that'll have to come later. Let's get this system all torn down so I can put the card into the system. Now that took longer than it should have. Glad I didn't get most of it on camera, because there were a lot of swear words involved. I have to say that whoever designed this case, and also whoever designed this motherboard, or the teams behind it anyways, should all be fired out of a cannon and brought to a timely death. Which is probably really excessive, and I probably just offended a couple of people by saying that. I don't know what it is with these Asus motherboards, but they always seem to put connectors in the stupidest places. I mean, what the hell is that? Like, what is that? That is the worst place I have ever seen for a front panel connector. It should go with, oh, I don't know, all of the other front panel connectors? Yeah, that would make sense. This card is a little bit too big, which was problem number one. But that wouldn't have been so much of a problem if this power supply was not, designed for this case. The power supply that was designed for this case was a huge piece of crap and blew up several years ago. And it wouldn't have been so much of a problem if this motherboard arranged things in a more, I don't know, say proper way, instead of doing things as stupid as that. I don't know. It just seems to me that whoever designed this board was clearly on either a sugar high or a drug high. Insert your drug of choice there. But now I've got to install this power supply, which is another gripe about this case. You know, let me tell you something. If you need to remove the power supply from your case in order to install expansion cards, you need a better case. If you need to bend up your case metal in order to install an AGP graphics card, you need a better case. In all honesty, you don't really have to bend up the case metal in order to install an AGP graphics card, but you do have to tear the whole damn thing apart in order to install an AGP graphics card. It is absolutely ridiculous. You can see I've gotten mad a couple of times at it and bent the metal there. Yes, I do admit to doing that, but this thing is absolutely worthless, so it doesn't really matter. And it's been like that for years, folks. I didn't do that just now. my temper has definitely cooled off after the years, even though it is still there. But anyways, this thing's probably not going to work now that I have gone through all the trouble to mount all those into the case. I'm going to even go to the trouble to screw this back in, but I'm not going to put the top cover back on. So if it goes up in flames, well, it'll burn the ceiling. Fortunately, I've got a fire extinguisher handy. Let's see here. Here's the proper breakout cable that I need, and then I drop it on the floor like a doofus. Well, I guess it's not quite the proper breakout cable. It's semi-proper. I'm going to plug it into the back. We're going to see what happens. I'm going to have to use some force in order to do it. But, well, let's just go ahead and try it. Breakout cable is installed completely inappropriately. This is so dangerous, especially when you consider that this is a plug that comes out. Do not try this at home, kids. This is not intended to be abused this way. I'm just curious. I want to see what happens, and if I can truly blow something up, that would be an experience worth telling, wouldn't it? Be almost as good as the time when I had a Best Tech power supply. I almost blow my hand off when it exploded. Quite literally, too. I'm actually shaking. That is not good. Not very encouraging, but it's all ready to go. I've got just the bare essentials that I need to power it on, because I don't want to trash too many good parts. I've got the USB keyboard plugged in, I've got the power, VGA, and I've also got the necessary composite cable in order to make this thing work. Just hit the thing there. Got the cards installed. Don't have the cover on. And I haven't even unplugged any of my hard drives. This is so dangerous. Do not try this at home. But you know what they say? You only live once. Got a green standby indicator on the bottom. Nothing is red hot or blowing up yet. Like I said, you only live once, and you might as well live dangerously. So here we go. Smoke test! Oh, it didn't turn on. That was very anticlimactic. It's alive! Let's see, does it post? It posted! Sweet! Awesome. Let's boot this thing into Windows and see what happens. I've got no RAID card. That's not very encouraging. Probably unplugged it. But never mind that. That's a small price to pay. Maybe it trashed the PCI slots. I don't know. I don't smell anything burning? Yeah, I had to make sure there. There's a little plastic thing on the side of the power supply. It had me go in there for a moment. It is booting, though. It didn't trash the whole OS. So I'm going to move this keyboard out of the way, so I can at least, because I got no mouse, so I can't do anything like that. So I'm going to log in here, and we'll see if we can fire up my program. I'm going to have to turn on a video source and see what happens. Alright, shows up, All-in-Wonder 128 Pro PCI. So let's see what happens if I open up a capture program. Let's go for Flash Live Media Encoder. See what it does. Now I'm going to have to be careful not to show any of my information. Some of the tags are invalid. Requires a video capture device to be plugged in. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to install drivers. That shouldn't be too big of a deal. Alright, after doing some running around on the internet, because, well, let's face it, AMD has got no idea how the internet works, I was able to successfully find a file that worked. NJRoadFan linked a copy in the, provided a download link in the Stereo Dust Particles forum, but it doesn't work. This is what it does. It's the same link as what we've got here, so we're going to go ahead and copy that. This is exactly the reason why big companies should not be allowed to control stuff on the internet. It says, download not complete. You were linked to this download site from outside, or linked to this download from a site outside of AMD.com. They don't allow it. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. AMD, get your butts in gear and fix this. This is a bug. Anyways, I'm not going to rant about it anymore. We're going to go ahead and run this driver. Oh, I'll assure you I read that very carefully. Go ahead and install that, see what happens. It's probably going to brick my computer, but you never know. ATI display driver. Well, I'm not using the display portion of the driver. So we'll see what happens. If I can actually get this stupid card working. Something is coil winding over here, and it is very annoying. Probably the power supply, if I had to guess, because that's an Antec power supply. Let's not kid ourselves. Is this going to do anything? There we go. Next, I assure you I read that license agreement very carefully. It is writing to the hard drive. It is installing the same crap that it already installed for the other video card. Hopefully it doesn't screw it up. Although it inevitably will. Setup is finished installing ATI drivers on your system. Okay. So let's see what it does now, what shows up. Hardware, device manager, display adapters, all-in-wonder 128 PCI. So it's got that much right. The driver is provided by ATI. Hardware settings have changed. What? Okay, we'll reboot then, I guess. That's impressive. So, okay, I'll come back once that's done. Wow, I don't know what happened to the autofocus there, but it totally screwed up. Got a camera hooked up now. It is slowly but surely booting. We're going to see if Adobe Flash Live Media Encoder works with this card now, or if I just wasted a whole lot of my time. Cannot get device, so that's nice. Too bad I don't care. Not enough memory available for this task. Oh dear, something exploded. That's a bit of a problem. Well, that's real nice. I don't know what's going on here, but the whole system just locked up. Sweet. This card is working real well. I'll tell you what, I'm probably just going to take the whole darn thing out because this is ridiculous. Unreliable. Well, it's opening Flash Live Media Encoder, so let's see what happens. Requires a video capture device. That's not very encouraging. See if I can try something else. Does it report the presence of a card? No. So unfortunately, I think that card is dead. Okay, well, I'm not going to sit here and troubleshoot it because I've got far better things to do with my time. I'm going to uninstall what I just installed, I suppose. Or, I think I can probably figure out... Let's see. Where is... I'll figure this out. I'll put the old card back in because that was a bust. Oh well. Glad I tried it before I spend any money on a card that doesn't work. I'd like to issue a one-finger salute, and a warm one at that, to the Asus motherboard developer team in charge of the P5PE-VM, well, motherboard. For stupid design, poor placement of connectors, and just downright frustrating, well, stupidity. And for building a cheap board at that. This thing is littered with KZG capacitors that will blow up the first time I look away from it. Let's take a look at what the problem is. The problem is very simple. You see, these are expansion slots, And most expansion cards have got, I don't know, a screw right there. So they have to have a little bit of PCB. So why in the hell would you put a connector there? Let's see if I can find it. You know, it's that stupid, what is that? That HD audio connector. That should just, yeah, there we go. It's underneath this stupid thing. It's right down there. Why does it exist? And why is it there? That is the dumbest design decision I've ever seen. And the developers of this board should be ashamed of themselves and should all quit their jobs as a result of that. Yes, I realize I'm being a little bit harsh about this, but let's face it, when you've had a hardware upgrade go wrong and you've had to put a lot of effort into said hardware upgrade, although I wouldn't really call an ATI All-in-Wonder 128 an upgrade, but it is certainly a different piece of hardware. Really? What the hell? Stupidity continues. I bet you I forgot to put a screw in here. No, I guess not. It's fine. What am I sitting on? Oh, how handy. This stupid case once again. I tell you, it's either the case or the motherboard. Nobody knows how to design anything that works properly. Even Gigabyte stuff is crappy sometimes. Okay, I'm gonna break this thing in just a second, or I'll break my hand off too. That's always a possibility. Because I'd like to once again mention that nobody knows how to design a freaking case or a freaking motherboard. Well, I definitely do try to learn at least one new thing every day. Today, I learned what happens when your Sony Handycam runs out of batteries. But as you can see, we've still got the nut fiddling around with his camera on YouTube. But that is definitely working. So that's always good news. This is such a stupid trick, but I'm going to try it. Let's see what happens. Whee! Visual feedback! I think it probably looks better on the, not this camcorder, or the one that you're looking at, but the one that's on the screen. Oh well. Definitely, something that you can do. And a little bit disappointing that that upgrade didn't work. Especially considering all of that climax for what became nothing.